Welcome to Listen and Learn Code, the podcast where you learn about programming and tech topics without needing to watch a screen. This podcast is unique in its focus on explaining deep technical topics in a primarily audio format. I'm Michael, your host. In this series, we'll dive deep into Django. This podcast is designed to help you grasp the foundational and advanced aspects of Django, making it accessible wherever you are, no screen required. Today, we'll focus on models, a fundamental concept in Django. Imagine you're building a house. One of the first things you need is a blueprint that outlines the structure, showing where each room will be, where the doors and windows will go, and how everything is connected. In a world of Django, which is a web framework for building web applications, a blueprint for how your data is organized and structured is called a model. A model in Django represents the structure and behavior of the data in your application. Think of a model as a detailed plan for your data. It defines what fields your data will have, such as names, dates, or any other attributes. It also defines how these fields interact with each other and with the rest of your application. For example, if you're building an application for a library, you might have a model called book which includes fields like title, author, published date, and ISBN number. These fields will describe the essential details about each book in your library. Each model in Django corresponds to a single table in the database. So, if you create a model called person, Django will create a table specifically for storing persons. Imagine this table like a spreadsheet where each row represents a different person and each column represents a different attribute of the person, such as first name, last name, date of birth, and so on. This way, the model serves as a single source of truth for the structure of your data, ensuring that everything is consistently organized and easy to manage. Now, let's dive a little deeper into how models work without getting too technical. Imagine you're managing a guest list for a big event. You'd likely use the spreadsheet to keep track of everyone who's attending. In Django, you would create a model to represent this guest list. Let's call it guest. In this model, you would define fields like name, email address, and RSVP status. Each field in the model represents a column in the database table, and each guest on the list would be a new row in this table. Creating a model in Django is a lot like creating a detailed, organized list of all the different pieces of information you need to keep track of for your application. It's like setting up a system that ensures all your data is stored in a structured, predictable way. Once you've defined your model, Django uses it to automatically generate the necessary SQL commands to create and manage the corresponding database table. This automation simplifies the process of database management, freeing you from having to write complex database queries by hand. To illustrate this with a practical example, imagine you're developing a simple blog application. You would need a model to represent each blog post. Let's call this model post. The post model might include fields like title, content, author, and publication date. When you define this model in Django, it will automatically create a table in the database where each row represents a different blog post and each column stores one of these fields. This way, whenever you add a new blog post, Django knows exactly how to store and retrieve all the information related to that post. In summary, a model in Django is like a blueprint for your data, defining what fields it will have and how they interact. Each model corresponds to a table in the database, and Django uses this model to generate the SQL commands needed to manage the database. This system ensures that all your data is organized, structured, and easy to manage, allowing you to focus on building your application without worrying about the complexities of database management. Imagine you're building a custom bookshelf for your home library. You want each shelf to hold specific types of books, and you need each shelf to be just the right size for the different genres. In Django, models help you organize your data in a similar way. They serve as templates for your data, making sure everything is in the right place and easy to access. In technical terms, models in Django are created by subclassing a base class that Django provides. This means that your models inherit methods and properties from this base class, which makes it easier to define how your data is structured and behaves. Think of it like inheriting a basic bookshelf design and then customizing it to fit your specific needs. Each attribute in a model is defined using a field type provided by Django. For example, if you want to store text data like names or titles, you would use a char field. For numerical data, such as age or quantity, you would use an integer field. These field types not only determine the kind of data that will be stored in each column, but also influence how the data is handled throughout your application, ensuring consistency whether the data is being displayed in a form, retrieved from the database, or shown in a view. Imagine you're working on a project to catalog a music collection. You create a model called album with fields like title, artist, release date, and genre. When Django sets up the database table for this model, it automatically includes an ID field as the primary key. This ID field uniquely identifies each record in the table, just like a unique barcode for each album. This makes it easy to retrieve, update, or delete specific albums from your collection. Once you've defined your models, you need to let Django know that you intend to use them. This is done by registering the app containing your models in the installed app setting of your project settings file. Think of it like telling your home library system about the new bookshelf you've added. By registering the app, you're informing Django to look for and include the models defined in that app, ensuring that they are recognized and managed correctly within your project. To give you a real-world example, let's say you're developing an online store. You might have a model called product with fields for name, price, description, and stock quantity. By defining this model and registering your app, Django creates a corresponding table in the database. When a new product is added to your store, Django handles the storage and retrieval of all the relevant information, ensuring that everything from the product name to the stock quantity is stored in an organized and consistent manner. In summary, Django models are powerful tools that help you define the structure and behavior of your data. By subclassing a base class provided by Django, you inherit useful methods and properties, making it easier to define your data. Using field types, you specify what kind of data each attribute will hold, ensuring consistency across your application. When Django creates the database table for a model, it automatically includes an ID field as the primary key for unique identification. Finally, by registering your app in the installed app setting, you ensure that Django recognizes and includes your models in the project, making your data management seamless and efficient. After registering your models, you need to ensure that the changes you've made to your models are reflected in the database. This is where migration commands come into play. Migrations are a way to propagate the changes you make to your models into the database schema. Think of it like updating your blueprint and then making sure the actual construction follows these new plans. To create new migrations based on the changes you've made to your models, you use the Make Migrations command. Imagine you're remodeling a room in your house and you've decided to move a wall or add a new window. The Make Migrations command is like creating a detailed plan for these changes. It records what changes need to be made to the structure. Then, the Migrate command is used to apply these changes to the database, similar to the actual construction work that implements the new blueprint. This process ensures that your database schema is always in sync with your model definitions, just like making sure the physical room matches your updated plans. Now let's talk about fields in your models. Fields are the most important parts because they define the type of data that can be stored in each column of the table. For instance, if you are creating a model for an online bookstore, you might have fields like title, author, price, and publication date. Each of these fields uses a specific field type provided by Django, tailored for different kinds of data. A char field is used for short text strings, like the title of a book. For longer text, such as a book's description, you would use a text field. If you need to store numbers, like the price of a book, you would use an integer field. For dates, such as the publication date, you would use a date field. Each field type comes with a set of options that allow you to customize its behavior. For example, with a char field, you can set a maximum length to ensure that titles don't exceed a certain number of characters. You can also make fields optional, meaning they don't have to be filled in, which is useful for information that isn't always available. Field types in Django not only determine how data is stored in the database, but also how it is presented in forms. For instance, a char field is typically stored as a varchar type in a SQL database, and when rendered in a form, it will appear as a text input field. This consistency ensures that data is handled correctly at all stages of your application, from storage in the database to display in a user interface. To give you a practical example, imagine you're developing an app for managing events. You create a model called event with fields for the event name, date, location, and description. When you define these fields, Django knows how to store and retrieve this data correctly. The event name would be a char field, the date would be a date field, the location might be another char field, and the description could be a text field. When you use these fields in a form, Django ensures that each field is displayed in a way that makes sense. For example, the event date would be displayed with a date picker, making it easy for users to select the correct date. In summary, after registering your models, you use migration commands to ensure your database schema is updated to reflect any changes. Fields in your models define the type of data stored and how it is handled throughout your application. By using the appropriate field types and options, you can ensure that your data is consistently and accurately managed, making the development process smoother and your application more reliable. Imagine you're creating a social network for book lovers. You have users, books, and reviews. To make the system work, you need to define relationships between these different pieces of data. Django makes this easy by allowing you to define relationships using special field types. Let's start with the one-to-one field, which creates a one-to-one relationship. This is like saying each user profile is linked to exactly one user account, and vice versa. Imagine you have a user profile model that contains additional information about users, like their favorite genres or a profile picture. You would use a one-to-one field to link the user profile to the user model, ensuring that each user has exactly one profile. Now, consider the many-to-many field, which creates a many-to-many relationship. Think about genres in books. A single book can belong to multiple genres, and a single genre can include multiple books. You would use a many-to-many field to represent this relationship, making it easy to organize and query this interconnected data. Another useful feature of Django models is the ability to define default values for fields. This means that if no value is provided for a field, Django will automatically use the specified default value. For example, if you have a review model with a field for rating, you might want to set the default rating to be 3 stars if the user doesn't provide one. This ensures that every review has a valid rating, even if the user forgets to set it. Help text is another handy feature in Django. It allows you to provide additional information about a field, which can be displayed in forms to guide users on what kind of data is expected. Imagine you have a user profile model with a field for the user's bio. You can add help text to this field saying, "Tell us a little about yourself. What are your favorite books and why?" This helps users understand what kind of information you're looking for and can improve the overall user experience by making it clearer what they should enter. To put this into a real-world context, let's imagine you're developing a recipe-sharing website. You have models for recipe, ingredient, and user. Each recipe can have multiple ingredients, and each ingredient can be used in multiple recipes, so you would use a many-to-many field to link recipes and ingredients. Each recipe is submitted by a user, so you would use a foreign key to link the recipe to the user who submitted it. To make things easier for users, you might set default values for certain fields, like setting a default preparation time of 30 minutes if the user doesn't specify one. You could also add help text to the ingredient field to guide users in listing the ingredients needed for their recipes, making sure they know to include quantities. In summary, Django models allow you to define complex relationships between your data using special field types like one-to-one field and many-to-many field. These relationships help you structure your data in a way that reflects the real-world connections between different pieces of information. Additionally, you can set default values for fields to ensure that they always have valid data and use help text to guide users in entering information correctly. These features make it easier to build robust, user-friendly applications. When working with Django models, one key concept is the primary key. The primary key is a unique identifier for each record in a database table, much like a social security number for people. By default, Django automatically adds an ID field as the primary key, ensuring that each record can be uniquely identified and efficiently retrieved. However, if you prefer to use a different field as the primary key, you can do so by setting the primary key option to true on that field. For example, in a model representing books, you might use the ISBN number as the primary key since it's already a unique identifier for books worldwide. Another important feature in Django models is the unique option, which ensures that all values in a particular field are unique across the database table. This is crucial for fields where duplicates would cause problems, such as email addresses or usernames. Imagine you're developing an online store and you have a model for customers. You would want each customer's email address to be unique, so two people can't register with the same email. By setting the unique option to true on the email field, Django will enforce this rule, preventing any duplicate email addresses from being saved. To illustrate these concepts with a practical example, let's say you're developing a library management system. You have a model for book with fields for ISBN, title, author, and publication date. Instead of using the default ID field as the primary key, you decide to use the ISBN field because every book has a unique ISBN. You set the primary key option to true on the ISBN field, ensuring that each book is uniquely identified by its ISBN. Additionally, you want to ensure that no two books can have the same title and author combination, so you set the unique option to true on a field combining both title and author. This prevents any accidental duplicates and keeps your database clean and accurate. Think of another example involving a user registration system for a website. You have a user model with fields for username, email, password, and date joined. In this case, you'll want both the username and email fields to be unique to ensure that each user has a distinct identifier. By setting the unique option to true for both fields, Django will enforce this rule, ensuring that no two users can register with the same username or email address. This not only helps maintain data integrity, but also enhances the user experience by preventing confusion and conflicts. In summary, the primary key option in Django models designates a field as the primary key, providing a unique identifier for each record. If you do not explicitly set a primary key, Django will add an ID field automatically. However, you can use a different field by setting primary key equals true on that field. The unique option ensures that all values in a field are unique across the database table, which is essential for fields like email addresses or usernames where duplicates are not allowed. These features help ensure your data is accurately structured and efficiently managed, making your application more robust and reliable. To help solidify your understanding, let's move on to a series of questions and answers about Django models. What is a Django model and why is it important? A Django model is a crucial component that represents the structure and behavior of the data in your application. Think of it as a blueprint that outlines how your data is organized. Models define the fields your data will have, such as names, dates, and other attributes. They ensure that everything is consistently organized and easy to manage, serving as the single source of truth for your data structure. How does Django use models to create database tables? Each model in Django corresponds to a single table in the database. When you create a model, Django uses this definition to automatically generate the necessary SQL commands to create and manage the corresponding database table. This means each attribute in the model, like first name or last name, becomes a column in that table, simplifying the database management process. Can you explain the concept of fields in Django models? Fields in Django models define the type of data that can be stored in each column of the table. For example, a char field is used for short text strings, a text field for longer text, an integer field for numbers, and a date field for dates. Each field type comes with a set of options to customize its behavior, like setting a maximum length for a char field or making a field optional. What is the primary key and how does Django handle it? The primary key is a unique identifier for each record in a database table. By default, Django automatically adds an ID field as the primary key. However, you can designate a different field as the primary key by setting primary key equals true on that field. This ensures that each record can be uniquely identified and efficiently retrieved. What is the unique option and why is it useful? The unique option ensures that all values in a field are unique across the database table. This is crucial for fields where duplicates would cause problems, such as email addresses or usernames. By setting the unique option to true, Django will enforce this rule, preventing any duplicate values from being saved. How do relationships between models work in Django? Django allows you to define relationships between models using special field types. A foreign key creates a many-to-one relationship, meaning many records in one table can be related to a single record in another table. One-to-one field creates a one-to-one relationship, linking each record in one table to exactly one record in another table. Many-to-many field creates a many-to-many relationship, where records in one table can be linked to multiple records in another table, and vice versa. What are migrations, and why are they important? Migrations are a way to propagate changes you make to your models into the database schema. When you change a model, you need to create new migrations with the make migrations command, which records the changes. Then, you apply these changes to the database with the migrate command. This ensures that your database schema is always in sync with your model definitions. Can you set default values for fields in Django models? Yes, you can define default values for fields in your models. If no value is provided for a field, Django will automatically use the specified default value. This is useful for ensuring the fields always have a valid value, even if the user does not provide one. What is help text and how does this improve user experience? Help text provides additional information about a field, which can be displayed in forms to guide users on what kind of data is expected. This helps improve the user experience by making it clear what they should enter, ensuring that data is entered correctly. For example, a user profile model with a bio field might have help text saying, "Tell us a little about yourself. What are your favorite books and why?" What is the purpose of registering your models in Django? After defining your models, you need to inform Django that you intend to use them by registering the app containing your models in the installed app setting of your project settings file. This way, Django knows to look for and include the models defined in that app, ensuring they are recognized and managed correctly within your project. And that's all for today's episode of Listen and Learn Code. We took a look at Django models, understanding how they serve as blueprints for your data, and explored fundamental concepts such as fields, primary keys, unique constraints, and relationships between models. By now, you should have a solid grasp of how models help you organize, structure, and manage your data in a Django application. In the next episode, we'll continue our journey into Django models, diving into more advanced topics. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to reach out. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss part 2 of our deep dive into Django models. Until next time, keep coding, keep learning, and remember, you don't always need a screen to learn something new.